Sean, again, things off the pitch are making the headline. So I just want to get your thoughts, first of all, on the takeover, or potential takeover, I should say, and obviously how it impacts you and the players at the moment.
Well, there's no impact on me at the moment or the players other than the news, obviously. Of course, as manager, I was aware of something maybe happening, but I know as much as you from this morning, the strength of the words put out. And I agree with you. I know there's also ongoing checks from the Premier League and the like, so, that will take some time.
Does that mean then you've had no chance to speak to the prospective new owners as yet?
No, not at this stage. Like I say, strong news this morning was breaking to me as well. Like I say, I knew some noise about it, but not the actual details. I'm sure in due course I will speak to whoever need to, but at this stage it's too early for all that.
How does it compare to the situation you were in at Burnley? Because obviously your final season there, a takeover happened. So what similarities do you see between the positions the two clubs are in?
Well, I don't know the group that are coming in, obviously, with any depth at all, really. So it's, the people involved, the people you're working with or could be working with, depending. And then, you fathom that out as you go. So I don't know their different thoughts until I speak to them about what their vision of the future is.
From your memory, though, what impact did that takeover have on you at the time? And I suppose, are there concerns that it can impact your position at the football club?
Well, it's more about the modelling of the club. The Burnley situation was different. They changed the modelling of the club and their view of how they wanted it to go. So that wasn't really the case. I made it clear afterwards we didn't win enough games, simple as that. So I don't think that was anything to do with the people involved. That's just a fact of the matter of being in management. Obviously, we need to win more games at the current stage of this season, although we've been playing well. But yeah, so all them things are to be looked at. The characters involved, should this deal go all the way through? And then we'll find out more, relationships, how you build relationships and their view of how the club can move forward, both on the pitch and off the pitch.
And what does a manager need from boardroom level that maybe has been lacking since you arrived at the football club?
Well, I've only had a short window. I think it'll be interesting to see, because the club have kind of found its way through all the different ways of working. More latterly, it's been me and Kev really have been hands-on all the time, obviously, mainly in the markets and stuff like that. Not the bigger picture, not the stadium and all stuff like that, quite obviously. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what their view of it is, how they see it moving forwards. And like I say, both on and off the pitch, the business side of the club, obviously the stadium as well, and then also on the pitch. So they're things to be looked at when let's imagine, when everything's done and signed and sealed and tied up.
We will get to matters on the pitch now. I'm sure you would have liked more in during the window.
It's unusual here, to be honest, since I've been here.
You always have to front up when it comes to this.
9 months of talking about all sorts of stuff. Not so much on the pitch.
As I say, obviously, I get the impression you wanted more in during the transfer window, but how strong are the options that you have in the squad now, do you feel, when everyone's fit?
Yeah, I think that's the key. Of course, you as a manager, you want to try and strengthen in as many areas as possible. The financial situation, I've spoken as freely and openly as I can. On the other hand, the people coming back to fitness. Dom back on the grass again and should be clear. Jack Harrison's now on the grass with us as a team, only the last few days, but that's good news and he's feeling good. Deli's still a bit of time away, Shames is still a bit of time away, but they're on the grass with the physios, so that's good, but not working with us in the team. Dobbo, he's back. He trained with us. Trying to think what else we're missing.
Branthwaite, Toffee.
Oh yeah, no, Jared's fine. Yeah, they're fine. Just knocks and nothing too major. So yeah, so we are getting stronger.
So Jack and Dom, possible options for the weekend? Or?
Not Jack. No, Jack's only just out on the grass working with the team. He's been out on the grass though for a longer period. With the sports science team and the strength and conditioning, all that side of things. But actually training with us literally a couple of days. So he's going to need more time than that. And with Dom, it's just obviously the facial injury. So he's managed to keep his fitness up, which is good. And so he'll certainly be coming back into the fold.
Just with that depth, how did you feel about the way Damari Gray left the club?
Well, I spoke freely of it. It was just one of them things. It's a situation where the club. All I was trying to make clear is the club will always make the decisions, not the players. That's just the reality of this football club. It's the reality of all football clubs, but certainly this one. So yeah, a decision was made. A very good fee for that player. And that had to be considered. The business side of the club has been quite apparent, I think, this summer, with the money brought in against the money going out. So I think that's part of the reality of where the club is at this time.
Obviously, Arsenal at Goodison brings back good memories from your first game in charge as well. It feels like you need something similar again. What was the key to that performance on the day, and something that you can maybe harness this time around as well?
Well, The oddest thing so far this season has been the actual performance level against what the points on the board. So we want the performance level to stay high. Some of what we learn from that, although each season is different, each team tweak with what they do. The basic structure of the team has to be good, of course. The work ethic of the team has to be good against all sides, but particularly sides like Arsenal. They've had a good start, and equally finding your key moments. And I think that's probably the biggest challenge so far this season is the number of key moments we've had, and we haven't been clinical enough to take hold of games at the key times. So not so easy against teams like Arsenal, but we showed last season, which when the team's in good shape, good, I suppose, being committed to the cause. At that stage, it was first game, Arsenal, big moment. And every player's nose pointing in the right direction, everyone playing on the edge, and that's what we want. We want every player to do that all the time. And like I say, apart from the league table, which I can't disguise, but the actual performance levels have been really high.
Thanks, Sean.
Thank you.
Sean, on Arsenal, I know at the end of last season you spoke about this and you've mentioned it since. There can be big moments in a season, turning points in a season. Is this potentially one of them when you relate back to that first game in charge and the effect it had on the squad?
I think usually, not always, it's retrospectively. I think people look back because in the Arsenal game, you've got to remember everyone just presupposed we're off and running, and we sort of did do, and then it tailed off. So it doesn't guarantee. I think taking these on would be, if you can get that result that you all want and we all want, then all it does is reinforce actually the good performances so far this season, and you get your payback for the consistency. There's one blip, of course, at Villa where we were miles off, but the other games we played very well. So I think it's more about that, reinforcing the consistency of the team and the way it's playing to get a reward for it.
Is it fair to say you feel that as a group you're in a better place now than even at the end of last season?
Well, we look to balance the group. We know there was an imbalance, and I think we've done that. Worked very hard and diligently throughout the markets and, trying to put deals together. And I've said all along, them deals have been difficult. So I think balance-wise, as long as everyone's fit, which everyone's beginning to get fit, then I think, we're in a better place. Whether we can, now take that into performances that can win, performances there, but we've got to win.
And against a team like Arsenal and obviously what they're trying to achieve, what is the key? What's the minimum if you are to pull off a win on Sunday?
Well, you've got to all play well. I've said it for years. When the big guns really turn up, then you have to play well. Some things need to go in your favour. They have a soft one, and you play very well. Your performance stops them. That can be a key factor. But also, we've got some really talented players, I believe. And we've been very creative this season so far. We've got to continue to do that. So it's not just about waiting for the game. You've got to go and take the game. And I've said this to the players endlessly. And so far this season, I think there's been a good show of that, despite not getting the points on the board that we think we should.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Rich. We'll go to Shimoon at the
Sorry, Shimoon, 1 second.
Hi, Sean. Is having the takeover being resolved good for everyone at the club to quieten some of that noise that you talk about?
Well, it's too early to say, I think, because it's not, like I say, with all the due diligence that's still to be done, until that's done, it might be a different view. But I think the noise has been there for a long time. So I think people have just got used to it, to be honest. The noise of ownership and possible new owners and all that sort of stuff. So I don't think it's that big a deal. Certainly not to myself or the players. It doesn't affect the fact we're prepping for the game against Arsenal. That just continues regardless of what's going on at the very top of the club.
Is it something to look forward to for the fans or who have maybe been unhappy at what's been going on here for the last few years?
Well, like I say, we don't really know which way it'll go yet with the strategy, the thinking, the course that the new ownership, let's say it goes through, will take. So I think, I imagine that messages to myself, messages going out there will come in due course and allow our fans a window of opportunity to see what their plans are.
Yeah, what have you had a chance to work on with the players during the international break on the training pitch?
Yeah, it's not so easy because obviously a number went away, a number of our starters, but they got back in today, so we did some relevant things that we thought today, and you've still got to monitor, a couple of players played both 90s, I think Miko and Amma. Ghana played the second game, so some have had more minutes than others. Pato less so. Jordan, of course, so it's just getting them back together today and doing some work on what comes next. And obviously with Arsenal, we do have to make sure the players are prepared, as we would do. But yeah, we've only got a couple of days with them together as a group.
And yet to pick up a victory this season, but can they summon that energy from your first game here to repeat what you did?
Well, it's a long time ago. I don't think there's some of that energy, but I'd like the energy to be in the performance. I mean, that's for sure, because it has to be. It has to be in all Premier League games. So that's a given for me. Minimum requirement is maximum effort. That's one of the things I've said to the team. All teams I work with, to be honest. And I think that's the way I thought I played myself, as limited as I was compared to these players. But I think I always put effort in. I think I always put maximum in. I think that's a key thing. When you get that collective energy, it can be a powerful force.
Thanks, Shamoon. We'll go to Carl.
Sean, you say you and the players are sort of trying to stay immune from the outside noise. What's the key to keeping sort of the stability within the squad when there's so much talk and there's going to be for another 3 months until this deal gets done?
I think they're used to it. I think ever since I've been here, probably before I was here, there've been noise about everything. Like we were laughing about, with Vinny's. Ever since I've been here, there's not many press conferences I've done about football. That's for sure. Purely about football, that is.
Thanks, Carl. Julia, Radio Merseyside.
Hi, Sean. This will be the first time the home crowd get to see Beto. He's become quite popular already. I'm sure you're aware with the fans. What has he provided a boost here?
I think he's added a different feel. I think he's quite quiet actually, but the way he goes about it, the way he trains, he's got a lovely rawness about him so far when he just wants to take it on. Very open-minded. I think he's shown that in his performances so far. He's shown that in training. And we certainly want to allow him to build on that, because you know yourself, you want, strange thing about football, you want players to be polished, but you also want them to not lose that raw edge. And I think he will become more polished as a player, but he's definitely got that rawness and that desire to do well. And that's a great thing to have, I think, coming into the Premier League.
I know you said Jack Harrison isn't ready for selection yet, but now you are able to work with him a bit more closely. What qualities is he bringing you to your squad?
Well, I think he can work in a number of key areas on the pitch. We know he can score, we know he can assist, and we know he's got quality, but he's also got a high work ethic, and I think that's a really healthy mixture for any team, but certainly for this team. So, we want him to do all of that. Like I say, it's early stage of him getting true fitness, but he's a fit lad, that's for sure. He tests well, as in our physical testing, and he looks free. The main thing with injuries sometimes, players come back, they don't quite look free. He does. He's joined in training the last couple of days and he looks like he's clear and ready to go. So now it's just getting him to full match speed and match fitness.
When you do those physical tests then, do they match up to what you then see in the training and what we see on the pitch?
Well, the only thing that people talk about, you've heard it for years, is that true match fitness. I say it myself because there's something about playing a game that is, you've got to add in the emotion of a game, the feel of a game, also the prep of a game, the build-up, all of that. You can never quite recreate that, but what you can do is get them fit for the task. So I think he's done a lot of work, a lot of background work. The final bit is when they get out there playing. And it's not just one game, it's each game as it comes. And usually by sort of that 2, 3, 4 game mark, they usually got true match fitness and physical fitness. Because most of these lads, you've got to remember, the days of these players coming in after pre-season, that overweight and out of shape, just doesn't happen now. Most of them, their general fitness is very high anyway, but we're talking about that peak top performing fitness, and there's a small percentage of difference, but it's very important, that last bit.
You've already mentioned it a couple of times there since you've come in. The headlines around the club have not always been about the first team, rarely about the first team. In fact, has this been quite a learning curve for you as a manager?
Yeah, definitely. It's, I will say that it's been some interesting times, but no, it's a challenge. I didn't come into it with my eyes closed. I knew it would be, and it certainly has been. Still is, but there's some really strong signs, I think, and I think as a club, and I'd like to think we're showing signs of that connection I spoke about, and I think the connection with the fans. We haven't got the points on the board we deserve, and I think they agree, and that's the feeling I get. I don't speak to all fans, but I speak to some, and they sort of get it. They've backed us home and away like they do, and I think so far they've liked what they've seen, other than the league table. Now we've got to correct that by winning games, but I think there's a lot of good work done. There's lots more to do.
Good luck. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Julia. We'll go to Will.
Hi, Sean.
Sorry, hi.
It's all right. Just want to ask about Gerard Branthwaite. He's obviously started the past 2 games, caught the eye. But it's an importance with him, given he is a young lad, fairly inexperienced. You have to take the rough with the smooth of him. Maybe there might be mistakes, but sticking with him and not maybe getting on his back too much is...
Yeah, I mean, part of the learning curve of all players, and I've mentioned many times about goalkeepers and centre-halves, they often mature later because their game knowledge improves, and I think that's where he's at. We know he's a good player. It's now about game knowledge and being alive to the nuances of being a centre-back, basically. The tiny details that you learn from years of playing there. And I think he's made a really strong start to what he's about. And I think he's getting more and more effective very quickly because he needs to, and he'll understand that. We're certainly not overcoaching him at the moment. We're letting him play. We don't want to overcoach him by giving him so much to absorb and so much to take on. So at the minute, it's just pointers really, direction as a group in the unit, and him absorbing his own performances. Because when you first start at any level of football, there's enough going on, and so we coach enough, we feel, to give them the awareness of what their job is and their role. But then sometimes let them go a little bit, let them learn from what they're doing. I think that self-learning in football is something that's still relevant, and not always the case. Some players, and sometimes you can feel like you have to overwhelm them with information about all the different things and players they're playing against. Sometimes, we've found over the years it's better to just back off a little bit and let them naturally play. And so far, he's done a good job of that.
I just want to ask about Andre Gomez as well. He's been linked with a move to Turkey before this evening. Is there any chance of that happening before the window closes?
I think it's unlikely. He's been very unfortunate with injuries, not major injuries. He's aware that I want him to get fit. I want him to be a part of what we're doing. I think he's a very good footballer. I think he's shown that down the years. So I think it's unlikely. I think he'll be here at the end of today. And I hope he is.
Just finally, you said in January after the window shut there can be a couple of pots of gold maybe in terms of the free agent market, but given that it was 2 weeks since the window shut, is it maybe too late now to say if that would have already happened? You might have brought any in, or are you looking at that?
Sorry, do you mean retrospectively players? Sorry.
Just the free agent market.
Free agent.
Yeah,
sorry.
You said in January there can be pots of gold.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. It's rare at this stage. You get one who's missed for odd reasons. Usually by this stage, the market's found the situation for players. Where they're at. But we'd certainly keep an eye on the list of players and see if there's anyone who sorts, which we've already done, of course. But we will keep doing that.